मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दितमहागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दित महागणपतिम् महादेवसुतं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं मानकोटि प्रकाशं शान्तं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं मानकोटि प्रकाशं शान्तं महाकाव्यनाटकविप्रियम् महाकाव्यनाटकविप्रियं मूषिकवाहनमोदकप्रियं महागणपतिं मनसा स्मरामि वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दित महागणपतिम् Thank you.
Thank you, Bhumika. To welcome is to show honor. To welcome is to establish integrity. Now, I request Mrs. Bindu K, Assistant Professor, Department of ECE, to welcome all the dignitaries.
Thank you, ma'am. A pleasant morning to one and all. It gives me immense warmth and pleasure to welcome you all for the inaugural function of this FTP. It's my privilege to welcome Dr. Ravindra Kumar Soni, Director, Atal Academies, Dr. Giridhari Lal Garg, Assistant Director, Atal Academies, and also the coordinators of Atal, Mr. Gaurav and Mr. Rahul, in their absentia. I feel very honored to welcome resource person of today's session, Dr. Ashok Rao sir. Sir is with us. Thank you, sir, for joining. I would also welcome Dr. Rana Pratap Reddy, Principal, Global Academy of Technology, who motivated us to organize this FTP. Welcome you, sir. I would like to welcome Dr. H.S. Manjunath Reddy, Head of the Department, Electronics and Communication, for his constant support to conduct this FTP, is also the main organizer of this FTP. It is my pleasure to welcome you all, various participants from various states across the country. I, on behalf of Global Academy of Technology, welcome you all to the 5-day FTP and request you all to make it a success. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request our Principal, Sir, Dr. Rana Pratap Reddy, sir, to share few words on this inauguration day.
Good morning, everybody. At the outset, I am extremely thankful to the Department of Electronics and Communication of Global Academy of Technology, who in association with ACT Training and Learning Academy is organizing 5-day workshop on mathematical foundations of data sciences and its applications. Considering the importance of the data sciences, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, the topic is very appropriate. It's extremely important that all those who are pursuing their research in machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence need to have a sound knowledge of mathematics. I'm extremely happy to note that very eminent personalities like Dr. Ashok, Dr. Rajan, Dr. Sharath from IISc, and Dr. Roshan, and many other experts who have wide experience in these areas are sharing their expertise. I wish the participants a very pleasant learning for the next 5 days, and hopefully when things goes perfectly all right in the days to come, we will try to organize one offline workshop of similar nature in Global Academy of Technology campus. And I thank Dr. Ashok Rao, Dr. Sharath, Dr. Rajan, and Dr. Roshan for taking interest in delivering during this Friday workshop. I wish all the participants a very fruitful learning experience. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, sir. Workshops and FDPs are the windows for learning new technology and its applications. As we are all aware that AICTE has established Atal Academy, which is conducting various FDPs in the various modern technologies. Now, I request Dr. Manjunath Reddy, HS, Professor and Head, Department of ECE, to brief about FDP.
Very good morning to all of you. Respected our principal, Karna Pratap Reddy sir, Global Academy of Technology. Respected Ravindra Kumar Soni, Director, AICTE Training and Learning Academy. Dr. Giridhar Lal Garg, Assistant Director, AICTE Training and Learning Academy. And coordinators of AICTE, particularly for Atal, Gaurav, Rahul, and Dr. Ashok Rao, and all the faculty members and my dear participants. Very good morning to all of you. We are pleased to organize 5 days online Atal FDP on Mathematical Foundation of Machine Learning in Data Science and its application. Machine learning and data science are playing vital role in all the streams of engineering and applied sciences. This FDP would benefit the faculty members, research scholars of AICTE affiliated institutes. It is a multidisciplinary field that uses scientific methods, process, algorithms, and strong mathematical foundation to extract the knowledge data. The main objectives of organizing this FDP to demonstrate proficiency with statistical analysis of data, develop relevant programming abilities, develop ability to build and assess data-based methods, apply data science concepts and methods to solve the problems in real-time problems. In these 5 days workshop, participants will gain the knowledge about linear algebra, probability, and engineering statistics, and also machine learning algorithm and its application. I request all of you efficiently utilize the knowledge shared by the eminent person to the maximum extent. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. There is no age for learning new things, and life never misses its opportunity to teach us something new every time from everyone. This pandemic has taught us learning through online mode. I request every participant to utilize this golden opportunity to learn through online mode. Before going to the vote of thanks, I would like to remind some of the important points to the participants that make sure that in order to avoid the disturbance for the presenter who is presenting, you are requested to make your audio in the mute. And also, I request every participant to maintain at least 80% of the attendance, which is mandatory. Otherwise, the certificates will not be provided. And also, every day at the last session, we'll be going to take feedback. So where you need to enter your user ID, which has been shared in the WhatsApp group. Now, I request Dr. Manjunath RC, Associate Professor, Department of ECE, to present a vote of thanks.
Respected Principal Sir, Global Academy of Technology, and Dr. Ravindra Kumar Soni, Dr. Giridhar, and all the delegates who are present here. A very good morning. And we have come to an end of inaugural session of 5-day FTP sponsored by Atal. Firstly, I would like to thank the management of Global Academy of Technology for their continuous support in conducting such events. I would like to thank our principal, sir, for his support. So whenever we are planning to conduct such events, he will be always the backbone for us to conduct effectively. So I thank you, sir, for presenting and sharing your thoughts about this FTP. I also thank the Atal coordinators, core committee members, that is Dr. Ravikumar Soni, sir, and Dr. Giridhari sir, so for your support. And special thanks to the Atal coordinators, so who have helped us a lot. Whenever we ask some doubts, they have replied in very few minutes, and with the effect of that, so we are conducting this effectively. So therefore, I thank Gaurav sir and Rahul sir for helping us in conducting this event. So I thank our HOD sir, Dr. Manjunath Reddy HS, who is the main coordinator of this event. And thank you very much for all your support. And special thanks to Dr. Ashok Rao sir, so who have helped us in framing the complete structure of this program and helping us to get very renowned resource persons. And I thank all the resource persons, Dr. Ashok Rao sir, Arun Lalal Rajan, and Sharath Hess, Dr. Roshan sir from Global Academy. So with this, I thank all the professors of Global Academy of Technology, as well as the professors throughout the country, and all the participants who have actively registered and making use of this 5-day FTP. I thank one and all who have contributed to this. Thank you very much.
Dear participants, in 2 minutes, we are going to start with the session. Please don't log it out. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm ready. Just let me know when to.
Ashok Rao sir, am I audible?
Very much.
Sir, just 2 minutes, let me give the introduction about you to the participants. Then as soon as I finish, I'll just hand over it to you, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, one and all, once again. I would like to welcome Dr. Ashok Rao, sir, who is with us. Thanks for joining us, sir. So, Dr. Ashok Rao, sir, holds a BE, ME, PhD, all in electrical engineering from Mysore University, Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, and Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, respectively. He specializes in digital signal processing and is known to be one of the leading figures in this area in India. In addition, he teaches and researches in areas of image processing, multimedia, linear algebra, renewable energy, biometrics, appropriate technology, and sustainable development, management, archaeology, education, and academic reforms and ICT. He has over 30 years of teaching and research experience, which includes 6 years in IIT Bombay, 7 years in IISc, 4 years in NITK Surathkal, and the various places in India. He has guided PhDs and he has also published over 100 papers. He is also a solar photovoltaic specialist, having been trained by Siemens Solar California during the year 96 to 97. Earlier, he was head of the network project at CEDT IISc Bengaluru during the year 1999 to 2005. Is also an entrepreneur, having successfully started and managed several IT and renewable energy companies during 98 to 2011. Currently, he is working as a director at NIE Mysuru. Thank you. Sir, over to you, sir.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm check the slide. Just show. Let me know whether it is visible too. Are the slides visible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Slides are visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. We will look at some of the things that was briefed by Principal Professor Reddy in the inaugural session. The first session I'm giving is on a very broad idea of what is happening now and where data science really sits in. Further sessions will be very technical. This will be semi-technical, introducing you to certain aspects. We are going to go at depth, and certain aspects we will not touch, but they are very important as far as data sciences is concerned. Okay. Particularly the fact that this is being organized by ECE department. Their role of in data sciences, apart from data analysis and data analytics, which many computer science people may do, the ECE people actually are the ones who are going to be the source of such data. So that's very important for them to be aware, even though this 5-day program is mainly focused on data analysis, data analytics, overlapping with ideas of machine learning. And the strong foundation of mathematics for this is given. Some reinforcement in terms of tools and programming environment leading to applications is also being done. But what you're going to get is just an idea of what is happening. If you really want to go into depth, which you may have to, and many will have to, you should actually pursue a thread, many threads which are woven here. One of the threads you can pick and move forward. Okay. Feel free to. I'll stop exactly at 10:45. We'll have 10-15 minutes of questions and interactions. Don't copy the slides. I'll share the slides with the participants. Okay, so these are the buzzwords that you hear very commonly in all engineering and technology related space, even in the media. Even the Prime Minister is also talking these words on and off. Mainly 4 words. One is AI, which is artificial intelligence. The other is machine learning. The third is data sciences or data analytics. We will look at data sciences because it includes both analysis, analytics. There are other components of data sciences like storage and all, which we will not touch at all. Then the one terminology which has been missed is very important because it's Internet of Things. There's a purely technology angle to Internet of Things. But here, Internet of Things is being seen in 2 contexts. One, as the source of all this data which you are going to do machine learning or data analytics. And second is, a lot of interesting applications will happen in data sciences and machine learning and AI in a broad sense, if only IoT is implemented. So while it still looks little peripheral, down the line, IoT will be the core issue which makes all these other technologies work and reward us. So we need to understand where this data science sits and what is the connection to the other topics. I've just taken a definition of data sciences. Data science is an interdisciplinary field, very important. The moment you say you are in one branch and trying to do something, you have already missed the big picture. Because data is everybody's business. The common man uses more data than the professional. Let me be very clear. We as professionals, we have a comfortable life simply because we have a very, very deterministic life. Our calendar is fixed. Our schedule is fixed. Our patterns are fixed. Almost we can guess what the other person will be doing. That's not the same with the common person. The common man, every moment of his life is different. Hardly can any amount of repetition or periodicity. So that way, their data is far more challenging than our data. Our data looks challenging initially. After that, we can easily predict all our 90% of our behavior and expectations. Okay? So it's an interdisciplinary field focused on extracting knowledge from data sets. So you collect a lot of data, but extract the knowledge, not information. So another important change from what we have been doing, we don't do data processing. We do knowledge processing, even though our source is data, which are typically large, very large, very, very large. Gigabytes looks very small. Terabytes is acceptable, okay? Going up to petabytes is not very uncommon, okay? The field encompasses analysis of data, preparing data for analysis, filtering, structuring, whatever, and presenting findings to inform high-level decisions in an organization, meaning you will do a lot of data-driven decisions. Lot of data-driven. If you look at an organization, today's organization is not driven on data. It is driven on information, which is highly personalized. That's why as a HOD or as a principal or as me as a director, we base our decisions based on what few people tell. We may not in many cases know the truth, but we respond to people who speak to us or with whom we speak, and rarely we speak to everybody. Rarely we go to the ground level and verify whether these are factual. So now you can see why administration and governance is such a big mess in the country, because it is driven by people and their information, personal biases, etc. Very rarely objectivity, and the real data which should have been used to drive this rarely is accessible, rarely is missing. Okay, but it's going to change. Okay, as such, it incorporates skills from computer science, lot of mathematics and statistics, graphic design, both virtualization and visualization, and business intelligence or whatever you call it, business acumen. So it's today the key driving force behind all the top companies, including good governance. So if you look at very grassroots level governance, which we have some very good examples, there even the most common of citizens, the weakest in the society also has an opinion which is valued. Okay, so such kind of thing is not automated. So one of the things about this is to automate such things so that we have a more objective and a qualitative, hopefully more democratic form of organization. Okay, as is already told, lot of topics. You say you are trying to do something on data sciences, there is huge overlap from very things. Okay, a big basket called AI, a specific aspect of data mining, then databases and data processing, visualization, lot of statistics, pattern recognition, very small set of machine learning, neurocomputing, so many things. So there is no one avatar specific, it has multiple avatars. You pick what you feel like. For example, people in computer science may put more on this, this and this, much less on this or this. But in this program, we will put a lot of emphasis on statistics, pattern recognition, and machine learning, a little bit of data mining. We will do very little of this, quite a lot of this, plenty of this, little of this, okay? We are not going to touch on neurocomputing because we are not going to do anything on neural nets right now because the emphasis is on mathematics of this. You could have a subsequent course on computation related to data sciences where we could look at all this. So in 5 days, it's not possible to complete everything. Okay? What is really the relation between AI, machine learning, deep learning, data science, all that? This is what it is. A very big basket called artificial intelligence, a big subset of it called the machine learning, a small subset but very important subset of it called deep learning, and another set which is not complete but partially overlaps called the data sciences. This includes a lot of statistics, statistical hypotheses, statistical techniques, etc. Many of which are used little in deep learning, lot in machine learning, quite a bit in AI. But there are a lot of other parts of data sciences we don't touch, which we don't touch now, but we don't know down the line this entire circle may get merged into this, or this AI may expand to include it. Okay? Fair enough. Okay. If you really want to take it seriously, the most important course in any engineering program is 2 courses on statistics. Basic course on statistics, advanced course on statistics, because data is going to define everything in future. A program which doesn't have basic statistics 1 course and advanced course in statistics is not an engineering course at all now. It has reached that level, but VTU and others are very slow to react. So we should at least get into some elective mode before it becomes compulsory. And before it gets into elective mode, it's very good to have short courses, more for students because they are the ones who are going to seek a job. Okay. Now, what are the things that various components, if I look at programming tools, data visualization, communication, intuition about data, statistics, data wrangling, machine learning, software engineering, calculus of several variables, and linear algebra. As a data analyst, this is what it is. As a machine learning engineer, these are the importances of this. As a data engineer like this, as a data scientist, all topics are very important. These 2 are somewhat important. There's hardly any topic which is not important. And in 5 days, we are going to cover something about the programming tools by Sharath, little bit of visualization and communication by Sharath, little bit of statistics by Arul, bit of machine learning and applications by myself and Roshan, and lot of linear algebra and probability and statistics by Arul. So we will not touch this. We will not touch this. We will not touch this. So it's, I think, a fair balance to be done in 5 days, considering that we have very heterogeneous group within us and others. So this is mainly the issues. So very broadly, AI is generalized idea of thinking machines. It is machines that think. What is machine learning? Making data-driven predictions. So we are We are in the predictive mode. Predictive mode is what is likely to happen. What we were, something fails, we analyze, oh, what happened? Next, what is happening? Diagnostics. What is likely to happen is prediction. That's where the importance of machine learning is. We want to know what is likely to happen in the next few minutes. If it is a medical patient, next few hours, if it is a machinery, next few weeks, if it is going to be climate and stuff like that, next few seconds, if it is a stock market. Okay. So what is deep learning? Class of state-of-the-art machine learning algorithms. So it actually builds up hypotheses and algorithms that run the future data. Whereas here, data sciences applied machine learning and statistics for data analysis and prediction. Okay. So it's an extension of the probability ideas. What is the conditional probability given this, what next, what is likely to be, so predictive algorithms or tracking algorithms like Kalman filter, whatever it is. Okay, it's an extension of all that. What does data do? When you say analytics, if it is descriptive, you want to say what happened. So you analyze data, for example, admission, this year's admission, engineering college admission. You take all the data and describe what happened. For that, to take a decision, you need lot of human input. You take a decision, then go to action. Suppose it is diagnostic, why did it happen? More of data input, less of human input, still decision space, go to action. Predictive, what will happen, what is likely to happen, lot of data space, little of human intervention, intuition, whatever you call, you take a decision, move to action. Suppose it is prescriptive, what should I do next based on the data? What should I do? I can classify it into two things, either as a decision support system, which is what majority of the medical applications do. They assist the doctor to take a decision. Whereas I can also make decision into an automaton, completely bypassing the human input. Data will drive the action. This is what is, for example, autonomous vehicles, drones, automatic, autonomous ICUs which are coming. All these put the medicine into the patient on their own by robotic or actuator network, smart network in the body or near the body. Data is taken, decision is automated, and action taken, remote. This is typically the medical and agricultural field which is coming, but it could lead to this eventually. So very important to know why the data science is doing is, it should be eventually going from data space to action space. No human involved. That's why the machine learning is so powerful and enticing, including the driverless metro train. And I won't be surprised if down the line we have a driverless government, in the sense, what's wrong with that in the sense? If everything is automated, it is fair and square, there's no delay, there's no corruption, excellent, right? So these are the kind of scenarios. I'm not saying it is going to happen that way, but these are the kind of scenarios which, in fact, I am very confident that in about 25 years from now, if there is a war between two nations, it will be completely automatic vehicles that are going to fight each other. I don't think there will be any human, the cost of human life will become so valuable that you cannot afford to lose it. So this is what is going to happen. like what you see in Star Wars movies. So how this whole data space exists is the following. First you collect. And it's very important to realize that collection is very challenging. Don't think collecting data is easy. Collecting data is difficult. Collecting quality data is exceedingly difficult. Okay. So you have a lot of instrumentation, logging sensors, external data, user-generated content like us. Like what we are doing now. I'm giving a lecture and so much of data is getting streamed. Okay. Then you want to move and store it. You want to structure it. You have data pipeline and sometimes structured and unstructured data storage. Then explore and transform, clean the data, detect the anomalies, etc. and prepare it. Data preparation is not easy. Okay. Then aggregate it and label it, whether it's semantics or metrics, so many things, features, which we will spend some time on because much of the data analysis and analytics is done on features of the data. Then learn to optimize. Then finally deep learning. Okay. So this is really typically what we also do as humans. We may not do it in such compartmental form, but we do it. We read a book, finally we understand a theorem at the deep level. So all this we would have gone through. We would have solved a few problems wrongly, then understood how to do it, what tricks to do, what we mean by a good solution, what are the best ways to get consistently good solutions, so on and so forth. Where is it? So many things. There is a lot of changes in the software engineering and data storage paradigm. Many could have in computer science done a similar course by running a big data analytics course using Hadoop and other things. But here is where we do, okay? So you can see R, statistics, machine learning, data mining, statistical modeling, SAS package, research analytics, LaTeX, algorithms, so many things, business intelligence, Python coding, so on and so forth. See very little of C, C++. In fact, in 2-3 years from now, anybody who knows C, C++ will not even get a job. Okay. The new languages are Python and R. And that's where we should. We'll spend a little time on Python, but I hope later you do a course on R with or as a statistical package. This is it. See, AI, field of machine learning, deep learning, and data sciences has this. You need a lot of domain. So computer science, mathematics, the intersection is machine learning along with this statistics and data science. So computer science, mathematics, and data science and statistics, if you intersect, you're going to get data science. One is statistical part, analysis and analytics. Other is the data processing part. But what kind of data? This domain knowledge is very important. Don't miss that because people now, even this course, we spend more time on this, and this, but we don't spend much on domain, even though there are 2-3 applications that will look at certain domain. But domain knowledge is very important. Okay? And that's something that's missing in an engineering program. What classes of algorithms to use? Various. If your question is this A or B, meaning is this type or that type, is it on the left side or right side, is this right or wrong? You want to classify data, you use classification algorithms. You want to check differences, you do anomaly detection or outlier, whatever it is. You want to check how much or how many of these is what it is, called regression algorithms. How is this data organized, grouped, called clustering. What should I do next? Prediction, reinforcement learning. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types of 5 classes of algorithms on a very similar data set. So The other thing we were doing apart from computer science, you put data, it just processes the numbers. At most, you could have got a mean or a variance or whatever statistical metrics you wanted. But today it is a lot more. Not only it visualizes, it gives you trends, it can pick the outliers, it can tell you pitfalls which you may not anticipate or which you may not spot in the cloud of data, so on and so forth. So we will do quite a lot of classification algorithms. We will do a lot of clustering algorithms. We will not do reinforcement. Little of anomaly detection we will not do. Little bit of regression algorithm we may do. Okay. Broadly, machine learning has broadly three types. One is supervised learning. That is learning with the presence of teacher. Okay. And in supervised learning, you can either do classification or regression analysis. And there are many other image classification, identity fraud, diagnostics, so on. Weather forecasting, market forecast, estimating life expectancy, which people use in regression models in insurance companies. Huge. Actually, the field of actuaries heavily uses this. Okay. Your Aadhaar uses this. Okay. Lot of medical scan data uses diagnostics approach. Okay. The other class is unsupervised learning in the absence of teacher. That is, there are no annotated labels. There you do feature elicitation, structure discovery, meaningful compression, big data visualization, recommender system, customer segmentation, targeted marketing. All these are done today. These recommender systems are what today lot of medical field uses, and even in the stock market. They analyze huge amount of data and recommend 2 or 3 options in a hierarchy. Okay, you could buy this stock or this or this. Or they say you buy this stock, don't buy this. Recommend, action is yours. Okay. Same with medical diagnosis. They say, okay, this could be a case of sepsis, most likely 70%, or it could be a renal issue, about 65% confidence, so on and something it gives, so that doctor is steered to take better decisions. Otherwise, when doctor encounters a critical patient, they just observe a few things, and many times they miss out a very critical but not very obvious deficiency in the patient, which may eventually lead to more criticality or even death. And the third one is reinforcement learning, which has including robot navigation, real-time decisions. This is the deep learning thing. Okay? You may not need deep learning all the time, but even though today, thanks to very powerful deep learning nets that are available, 100-layer neural nets are so cheap and affordable. Everybody is heavily going into such things. So it's still nascent in the sense that we don't know where it will plateau out, let's say. But whatever it is, the first plateau of all these things will be reached in 3 to 5 years from now. Okay. After that, we need to take stock and see where it's going. So what does all this mean? For example, AI is approximately now 64 years old. Okay, so the famous group of people, McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Rochester, and Shannon, sat together and exactly almost 70 years back said, okay, this is probably a way to go, that is to proceed on the basis of the conjecture, which is not yet proved, even though there are strong evidences, that every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can in principle be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. This is the birth of AI. Okay. And they're doing a small college, Dartmouth College, not MIT, Stanford. So you must realize even small colleges have a very big role to play in the change that society faces. Okay. So immediately after that, the idea was, since chess is a game of intellect, if I can program a computer to play chess, then the computer is intelligent. So we are putting intelligence into computer, which was otherwise capable of huge amount of data processing. And they did brute force approach, then they did strategic approach. Finally, this happened. On 10th February 1996, the IBM Deep Blue defeated Garry Kasparov in a match, and Garry Kasparov was then the world's chess champion. Today we have, this is almost 20 years back, little over 20 years back. So today we have such powerful machines that it can defeat any human champion in a chess, because it is designed not to lose, and at the most a human can draw, and human being a human will make mistakes at least once in 5 or 6 games, and one small mistake is enough, the machine will defeat it. So now we have reached a stage where machines, at least in chess game, there is nobody who can defeat it. But that's not all of it. It even defeated humans in a game of quiz called the Jeopardy game, famous TV chess quiz program in US, and you can see IBM Watson easily defeating the 2 humans. Okay. Even worse, there's a game called Go, which is very challenging, played in South Korea and Southeast Asia. And this is far more complicated than chess. And till 2015, in spite of 20 years back, powerful chess machines being there to defeat the world champion, till 2015, no computer could defeat a human. The South Korean champion could not be defeated, but something happened with the AlphaGo computer, which finally defeated a Go world champion in 2015. What is interesting is how did it defeat? What they did was, like they did in chess, they stored all the past games, data about all the previous famous games played by Kasparov and others starting from 1900, which has a good documentation available. So the IBM machine knew almost all the good games and all the good moves and all the moves where people fail, etc. So by sheer knowledge, memory, and little of strategy, it defeated Kasparov. But they tried the same with this. In spite of that, it lost. They fed all the game moves and knowledge and data about it, yet it lost, because this is in some sense a 3-dimensional thinking. Okay, but very peculiar. What they did was, they said this memory will not help, so they took the machine, cleaned out all the past data, fresh machine. They put the rules of the Go game into a machine, into a program, and then there are those who know ML and deep learning would know that there are things like hyperparameters which are needed to tune a program, or it learns the hyperparameter data. What they did was they made one program which played Go, then they slightly tuned the parameters and created one more copy of the program, and made one copy of the program play with another copy of the program. It played for 4 hours, one copy of the program with another. It played for 4 hours, all kinds of combinations, etc. They learned very well, so the internal architecture of the machine was optimized, and after 4 hours, it was allowed to play the world champion, and the world champion lost. So in 4 hours, a powerful deep learning machine, basically recurrent learning, reinforcement learning, which was able to learn the entire history of the game in 4 hours and defeat the world champion. So now they really don't wait for so much data to be available to make a machine powerful. They have found ways to make the machine powerful very quickly by simulated data or things like this. Okay? That's really machine learning. It's a subset, a broad term of AI, a subset of AI. Okay, so this refers to process making machines to simulate human brain function. It need not be action. It could be composing music, composing poetry, reading text. It can also be robot navigation. It can also be data analytics, all this, very broad. This subset, statistical methods are used to empower machines to learn from data instances without being programmed explicitly. So historically, you would program a machine and feed data and it would give you answers. Today, you do the following. You just feed lot of data and lot of previous answers. Don't program it. It will learn the program itself. It will create an internal representation of the program. And in future, if you give data which needs answers, it will give you very good answers as output. So the machine learns itself how to behave when new data instances is provided. That's the reason why this ML is. What is deep learning? Deep learning is machine learning where artificial neural networks are used as the building blocks for this learning mechanism. Okay? And today I must tell you that deep learning is approximately 70% of all machine learning. There are also other machine learning which is not deep learning, so you must be very clear about that. Now, what is data sciences in this? Refers to the process extraction of useful insight from data. Interdisciplinary merges various fields of computer science, scientific process and methods and statistics in order to extract data in an automated way. So, for example, we'll never, as humans, judge very well. Take a classic case where there is a student, there are two students who have come for job. Both have average 50% marks. Okay. So you check both are fine. You will pick one who has 50 marks in one subject, 50 in the other, average is 50. Then there's one more student who has 100 marks in one subject, 0 in the other. Whom will you select? A human being would select one who has 50 in both. But is that what we want? We look by average CGPA and stuff like that. We don't look at variance. For example, the two subjects, one was signals and systems, the other was C programming. One student got 50 in both, and this student got 100 in signals and systems, got 0 in programming. That's why you should hire this fellow who got 100 in signals and systems, even though his average is just 50 as the same as other fellow. So this kind of data we never analyze, and it's not possible to analyze that in quick terms. What can ML do? It's done a lot already. Self-driving car, medical diagnosis, smart farming, climate prediction, genome analysis. Very interesting for those who are not aware. Even today in the COVID vaccine creation, lot of machine learning has been done to extract effective and wrong DNA sequences. So this is on the genome database which is available. And there it's very interesting to see that this famous actress, she has a genetic inheritance of a certain type of illness. She was aware that she has it, she knows her mother had it, she was aware her grandmother had it, but she didn't want to pass it on to her children. So she took this genome analysis using machine learning, found out where her genes can pass this, which is very natural, nothing artificial about that. But then that gene, they do gene editing, all that kind of thing. They they insert the genetic therapy for this, and she has been successful. She has been successful in preventing that illness to pass on to her children. Of course, it cost her a few $1 million. She could afford it, but it's just the beginning. Like CT scan, MRI scan. Today, even the small taluk headquarters has this CT scan at 3,500 rupees. In another 10 years, this gene therapy will be available in pathological labs in Mysore and Bangalore, maybe at the cost of 5,000 rupees. Okay, where you can get your gene analyzed and see whether there is any potential danger that you are likely to pass to your children, and prevent it. Okay, so but it uses machine learning. Okay, and plenty of other things, financial transactions, then blockchain technology, supply chain, everybody, financial technology, all major financial institutions and investment bankers use machine learning now to invest stock shares and other things. Okay. Of course, self-driving car is a good example, but you have to be very careful that you should not introduce self-driving car in India, because if you introduce self-driving car in India, about 1 crore people will come to the footpath, because there are about 2.5 million drivers who make their livelihood out of this, and then 4 other family members depend on them. You have to be very careful with the context of technology. So, and again, our problem is current traffic management and our infrastructure does not support such sophistication. So every technology has good and bad. We have to understand this and choose and deploy carefully. This is very important. More important than learning data sciences and ML, because if you learn data sciences very well, you can actually do very good damage. So don't do that. Please be careful. Of course, medical diagnosis. Most successful application of ML in India today is in medical diagnosis. It can help early diagnosis and treatment. Potential to reduce the workload of radiologists and pathologists to a great extent, 80%, which means a radiologist and a pathologist can be productive 5 times more, 500% more productive, because all the support that they needed is now available, let's say on a mobile screen or on their desktop. Okay, potential to make diagnostic procedures a lot more affordable, accurate, and accessible, including remote. Why should a villager spend 300, 400 rupees to come to a district headquarters, spend the whole day waiting, then again coming back after 1 day or 2 days to get the report, go to another doctor and come? Very easy for him to just take a thorn or a small needle, prick the finger edge, a little blood will ooze out. He could put it onto a stainer and put it in front of the mobile camera. That will take it to the pathologist, who will analyze it and send it back as a report, and then say, okay, this is what you're saying. Of course, the question of payment and all is secondary, but this is something that's very much possible. Okay. Today, in fact, you have very famous companies, including many in Mysore and Bangalore, like Scanray and others, which are doing very interesting things. They take the pathology or histology or any of the sample, and along with the microscope, a machine learning algorithm is connected to the microscope. So as they analyze the microscope, the machine learning, as they analyze the data through a microscope, machine learning algorithm already generates the report. Okay, so it need not even be taken to a pathology lab and stuff like that. So many interesting things are happening. Okay, in fact, one of the most relevant applications in India, if you want to do another application, you have to be careful for, at least for large farms and plantations where there is acute shortage of labor. ML can be used, what is called smart farming, but the leverage for this is different. Okay, of course you can do it for judiciary, because what do you do in India? What is, whenever somebody says court, 3 things: corrupt, biased, broken, and failed. More than 3 crore cases pending. Many of them 10 years. Look at the Ram Janmabhoomi case. I think some 157 years it has taken for the verdict to be given. Okay, and 5 to 10 lakh cases being lodged every day, and we have very small percentage of judges for people. So this is what it is. Predicting outcome of a legal case using machine learning algorithm, which also uses data, lots of data. Understand the likelihood of winning a given case. And there's a report by Deloitte which says more than 1 million jobs in the legal sector have a high chance of being automated in the next 20 years. For example, now you have cameras with the traffic signal, and you don't need a policeman there. Anybody violates the traffic signal, number plate is recognized, and automatically a challan issue. So such things can easily happen, in the sense that today a lot of big companies actually go to a machine learning center, get their case checked once, and only if they have a good chance of winning, they'll file a case. Otherwise, they will go for a compromise or out of court settlement. Okay? This is what it is. See? AI in judiciary system, lawyers will object. Clients will be very happy because your case will get settled in 5 minutes at the cost of 500 rupees, which today takes 5 years and 5 lakh rupees and torture. Okay? This is how every device generates data. Video, emails, tweets, okay, all this product information, Amazon, Flipkart and stuff like that, huge thing. Be very clear, there's a lot of difference between data analysis and data analytics. Data analysis is what? Turning raw data into useful information. I get lot of data, I'll find mean, variance, higher moment, kurtosis, skewness, all these ideas. Purpose is to provide answers to questions being asked at the program site or research. Even the greatest amount and the best quality data mean nothing if not properly analyzed or if not analyzed at all. Analysis does not mean using computer software package. Analysis is looking at the data in the light of questions you need to answer. This is analysis. I have data about all the admissions to engineering college this year, let's say from Karnataka. How do I understand it? That's data analysis. COVID is an excuse, but next year there may be some other excuse. How do I know that if not COVID, something else, MVID, something may come, we don't know. Something else may happen to disrupt. So how to handle disruptions is what we learn. What is analytics? Getting beyond statistical insight of data, useful in predicting the behavior of the process. I do data analytics, beyond analysis. I say, okay, next year, if there is a disruption, how should I model my admission strategy? I don't know what the disruption is. Suppose the disruption occurs, how should I strategize my admission so that my admission is maximum? After all, even in COVID, with so much of bad admission in many colleges, please remember, there still are few hundred colleges which have close to 100% admission even this year. Why? Why is it that they have? Many of them are old colleges, by the way. So there is something that we need to learn. There is something that is not obvious. So analysis first, analytics next. This is it. Even though data analytics uses a lot of statistics, there is a difference between statistical analysis and data analysis. Uses statistical and or mathematical, use based on theoretical foundation, seeks to identify significant level to address a hypothesis. You may construct the hypothesis. Whereas here, uses data mining techniques like principal component analysis, which will be done, identifies inexpressible or novel relationships and trends which are not visible. How is the COVID and admission to engineering colleges related to geographical location? Is it explicit? Is it implicit? Don't know. Seeks to visualize. Statistical analysis doesn't visualize. This visualizes because we use a lot of computer graphics to visualize so that a picture is worth 1,000 words. When you see a graph, you know very clearly. Suppose I give you some collection of data points, you will not know how it looks geometrically, whether it is ascending data, descending data, you are in the valley, therefore you will improve, or you are at a peak, which means next few months you are going to decline. We have no idea unless we visualize. Okay? Like this, medical image analysis. A lot of interesting examples. There, one good early example is Arvind Eye Hospital in Madurai, which takes medical scan of retina on a mobile phone with remote patients and sends it to Madurai for analysis. Only if the patient needs surgery, the patient is called. Otherwise, medication is provided at the taluk or even sometimes village level. Okay, so the patient need not come for treatment. Patient is analyzed well in advance, and only a surgery if required is scheduled so that he doesn't waste the time. Okay, so very important. Such things are already happening. In fact, in Bangalore, I know a dozen companies which get MRI and PET scan images every night from USA and Europe to be analyzed here and sent back, because cost of radiologists is very high in Europe and US. Okay. Similar, as I told you about genetic and genomic information, the reason is the data is very big. You can't use a computer to analyze now. Computers cannot analyze this. You need a deep learning, GPU-based model and other techniques like MapReduce and all that, which tells you what is the connection between various gene segments and therapy and diagnostics and faults which are progressive. For example, you want to know whether you have a genetically inherited disease. You also need to know genetic information about your predecessors, right? So all these things are being done, including this, what is partly done today in designing of COVID therapy, because they have analyzed all gene sequences of COVID virus. Based on that, they have extracted and designed antidote gene sequences, which can eventually be synthesized in a lab. Okay, so this is really what it is. And see, on average, it takes 12 years to get a drug officially submitted. And today, in 2 years, 1 year, the vaccine is ready. And a more challenging thing than just making a capsule or a new injection. So all this has been happening because every lab that does COVID vaccine, this thing, either has it or gets its genetic and DNA, other profiles, mRNA profiles, all that done in a lab through machine learning. Okay. So in fact, tomorrow, in next 4 or 5 years, the entire biochemistry, molecular biology lab, even I already know in Indian Institute of Science it's happening, is now shifting to a machine learning lab. Machine learning will do biochemistry and molecular biology better than what these current labs are doing. So that's how it is shifting to other domains. Predictive medicine. Suppose I collect data of patients onto a, let's say, onto a smartphone and tell the doctor that this patient's trend, heartbeat is slowly coming down, pulse rate is like, oxygen saturation levels are like this. So on a dashboard for a doctor, he or she gets 10 or 20 critical parameters of a patient on the fly, and he or she can easily say, oh, this patient in another 1 hour will get into critical state. So early intervention, I'm not joking, early intervention in the medical field can easily save 70 to 80% of the lives which are now lost. Okay. So that's the idea of doing predictive medicine. And obviously, whenever there is some predictive idea, it has to have machine learning. How is it done? This is it. IoT is going to make it happen. All the devices. Today, you have IoT devices which are connected to washing machine, coffee maker, everything, your cameras, all these have, in fact, even your cars, for example, your MG Hector, the internet car. This is how the IoT in healthcare will be. You acquire data from the body, sense it, signal condition, transmit, send it to a cloud where a lot of analytics is done. Then visualization is provided to doctor and healthcare. Lot of companies have already come, what is called the wearable technologies. But all these wearable technologies, the important part is sensing. You have to sense various data, that is various signals and data associated with it from the human being. That's how it is, you see. Lot of things. It could be biochemical, you can see it starts off with glucose biosensor. And today we have all this nano biosensor, continuous glucose, tooth enameled biosensor, contact lens biosensor. Okay, because retina is one of the richest source of data for a human being. That's why many doctors look at the eye first. Then they ask the throat to be opened, cough, one something. Eye is a very good indication of how your health is inside. And today we have sensors which are part of the lens continuously. Then you have sweat, microfluid biosensor. That's why you see when you have high fever, you sweat because the body wants to take all the heat out, the toxic out, all these sensors. So today you have huge number of sensors, and that sensors is going to make things like this. You see, even chalks can be a sensor. Feet is a very good place for measuring so many body parameters. Doctors catch hold of the wrist and pulse, but all these are available online now if you want to do it. So you have a smart sock which has a lot of sensors and a transmitter which transmits all that. Okay, is it? See, smart sensor generates data. Data is now used for machine learning, data analysis, data science, and whatever like this. You have hundreds of wearable things that are coming. In fact, some of the smartphones now have even your ECG that you can see. Even as you wear your watch, your ECG is continuously recorded. You will have IoT embedded dress, continuously monitoring. So one of the biggest new technologies, wearable healthcare. And it's already happening. Few companies in Mysore and Bangalore have started. And this is what it will be. See, smart sock, smart pant, smart belt, GPS control, smart finger ring, smart glasses, smart shirt, smart watch, whatnot. You are continuously monitored and data is being generated. Huge, big data. All the time transmitted to a local server from which it goes to a cloud service, analytics done, sent back to you and saying, oh, you're jogging, you find you can jog for another 4 kilometers before you get into fatigue or whatever it is. Okay, so, but all these are sensors, all these generate data, terabytes of data. How you handle the data is what is the issue. Okay, this is how it will be. Body goes, you have a complete thing. Goes through an internet, healthcare data analyzer, healthcare advisors, including an emergency support, clinical support, medical web. Knowledge is updated, machine learning takes over, gives you very, very good recommender systems. Don't eliminate the doctor. Very important. Keep the doctor, help the doctor do better. Lot of companies, hundreds of companies. You will see some of these icons. 5 years from now, they will dominate the world. Right now, all this Google, Apple, and stuff like that, all those will go away. Some of these will dominate them. Okay. For example, now Tesla dominates other IT companies. In another 3 years, some other company will dominate Tesla, and one or two of them could be one of these today, which are small, but even the future government will be data driven. Data will be the currency of the future for government. You have district commissioner and data magistrate who head the government. They will be replaced by new DC and DM. This is data commissioner and data magistrate. They will be the most powerful people in the governments. Okay. Not just agriculture, even whole life. Life will be digital data. Okay. So what happens when something is digitized? Quality will improve. Quantity also will improve. Cost will come down. Therefore, affordability increases, right? Now you see music. Nobody buys music now. Any good music you want, freely download it. Okay. Is it? See, data sciences, skills, roles, and responsibilities. This is the Gartner report. So, what are the various aspects of data? What IC skills you need? You become an analytics leader. So, tomorrow's company will be driven by analytics leader, not by CEO. Chief Analytics Officer, CAO, will head the company, and that leader will have adequate IT skills, lot of data science capacity, and business, integrating all this. Okay. After all, who is a leader? A leader is one who takes good decisions. And today, all leaders have to take decision based on data, because the whole organization is being data driven. This is, you see here. You need good math and statistics. You need adequate computer skills. You also need lot of domain expertise, and that intersection is the data science. Okay. Computer skills like programming or big data and this thing, maths and statistics, domain experts. It could be business, it could be expert systems, or testing data, whatever it is. So this is really where it is. Lot of statistics, this part. More important, future, we'll have a lot of behavioral sciences. For example, I won't be surprised if next elections are predicted based on, today we do statistical modeling and prediction is reasonably good, I know, but it can actually be ML driven. It's going to happen. It's already happening. There are companies which are doing it. So there is it. Various domains, biomedical data science, machine learning, data analysis, programming skills. It depends where you pick. Okay. Different semesters you can organize yourself. You have internship and Unix lab, whatever, bioinformatics, whatever. Okay. This is, you see, this is for machine learning and data analytics in plant sciences. So pick all the knowledge, intelligence, and the data integration of various things, protein interaction, gene expression, whatever, machine learning algorithms, machine learning models, big data analytics tools, data processing. After that, it goes to data assisted basic research and big data assisted transactional research, whether it's pest control, genome breeding, pathogen preventing, weather forecast, agricultural marketing, anything. So even plant sciences have got impacted by data analytics and machine learning. And that's why you need, see, the plant genetics people don't know these things. You know these things, you don't know this. So unless you build up a domain, it's very important that you don't try anything. This unfortunate, very bad habit of engineering colleges, saying civil, mechanical, electrical, electronic, whatever branch, you ask student what they know, they say C, C++. This is the stupidity of Infosys, which has resulted in very bad culture in the country. They have killed all engineering disciplines. They have killed all domains. They want C, C++, Bakaras. So they go and tell everyone, you learn only C, C++. Don't learn other domains. Don't become domain specialist. This kind of very bad mentoring done by Narayan Murthy and others has really resulted in such bad situation we have. Otherwise, we could have had 10 companies like Google in Bangalore. Because I know very well that most of the big companies, Google, Amazon, Flipkart, whatever it is, 40% of all the main designers there are Indians. Many of them are my classmates and colleagues. Why is it that they couldn't have done it in Bangalore? Because Infosys and Wipro, TCS, all these people have misled the youngsters saying, I'll give you one job for 30,000. You wait for the rest of your life like a bakra. So this is really what is happening. I hope this workshop sets a trend where everybody starts doing interesting things and every student picks up one or two domains. Otherwise, there is no job in future. Don't think your students will get placement if they know C, C++. And if by chance they get, they will lose it very quickly in a year or two. Future is people who have very good domain knowledge and they know programming like Python or R, statistics. Okay, that will happen. High quality jobs. Please encourage, learn well, do well. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll hand. I can take a few questions now.
Thank you, sir. Participants, you can unmute and ask if you have any questions. Sir, can you hear us, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So there is one question in the chat box. What is the Boltzmann machine? Is it a type of deep learning?
Yeah, see all this Boltzmann machine, Hebbian learning, so many learning strategies are there. Those mechanisms are built into a neural net. So each one has different flavors, but today by and large 90% they simply use a 100-layer convolution neural net or deep net, fully or partly connected, and that's it. Okay. But there may be very special problems which need Boltzmann machine architecture or Boltzmann learning strategy that can be coded. Not very generic. Yeah, any other question?
Sir, good morning, sir. It's a wonderful presentation, sir. Sir, I have some suggestion and clarification from your side, sir. Sir, management students, especially BBA and MBA students with background, degree in science background, what is their role, sir? What is their opportunity in starting a career in data scientist job or any in artificial intelligence domain or any other technology related jobs, sir? They have a domain knowledge.
No. Let them not jump into technology straight away because there are better competitors for them. What they can do is do one course in statistics and a second course on business statistics and business intelligence. Then even if they learn Python programming, it's okay because the knowledge they bring is more important than the person who's going to run the deep learning network. It is eventually a programming environment. So the domain knowledge is superior to technology and programming language. Be very clear. The one with very good domain knowledge always succeeds. They may need familiarity with some programming and architecture, but let them not get into an architecture or a programming job. Am I clear?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, there is one more question from one of the participants. Are there any sensors for agricultural development? Can you suggest?
Plenty are there. There is a company called Vadvani Institute of Artificial Intelligence in Mumbai. They have done a lot of sensors for cotton pests already, and that application app is available in Marathi on the mobile phone of farmers. So interesting they have done, and such things are happening. Smart agriculture is coming already in many places. All these make sensors. What sensors they do? Moisture sensor, pH, and nitrogen measurement. All these are there. There's a small dot pen like structure which you push it into the soil, you measure 10 or 12 agricultural parameters, and through wireless enabled system, send it to your mobile phone or even to your server. Such things are already there. But very good opportunity for people to do IoT for such things, because there are more and more sensors available today, cheap and affordable.
Any other questions from the audience? You are welcome to ask.
Details of course and all that. See, there are plenty of courses on online. Don't even have to pay for it. See, today if somebody wants to learn, amazing opportunities there on the net. Lot of good material, very good lectures on basic and advanced statistics, including ML applications on the YouTube. What we really need is people to sit and learn very diligently, which unfortunately is not even happening in colleges. Even when you teach, people don't want to learn. How will they learn when nobody is teaching? That degree of motivation is what is lacking. Otherwise, material and opportunity are definitely not lacking. Okay. Plenty are there. In fact, it is too much. There is too much material on the net and YouTube now. What is lacking is serious learners are lacking. Material is not lacking. Our days, material was lacking. We were many serious learners, but over the last 20-30 years, this is because of the low-level IT culture introduced by Infosys, that you don't have to learn anything seriously. Learn how to speak few sentences in English and learn some C, C++, your life is made. That kind of easy mantra that they gave has spoiled all this learning in the country. Okay? It is high time to repair that. Any other question?
So there is one more question on the chat box, sir. For the basic and advanced courses on statistics, can you suggest few?
I've told, right? Basic 1, 2, 3, 4, advanced 1, 2, 3, 4, more advanced 3, 4, 5. So many are there. You don't need so much. You need one basic statistics. You need one course on advanced statistics related to a domain. And you need to know either R, or if you have SPSS, statistical package, that also is okay, but R is better because it's open source, free. And R will do both statistics, it will do some machine learning for you, it will also do what MATLAB currently does. So R is, I think, what is needed. In fact, we are shortly having a workshop on R and statistics in Mysore, but I hope it is offline. Online is very difficult to motivate people to learn well. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Any questions from the participants? Any other questions?
Okay. If there are no questions, we'll close. We'll have the next session at 11:30. Arul will do linear algebra.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your nice presentation. So a lot of motivation.
Slides with you. You can circulate it to all the participants.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.